Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback, Trey Johnson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast presented by the 2019 Legends of Pittsburgh Cruise. Not only are there Pittsburgh legends on board on the Legends Cruise, but they also have great entertainment to keep you smiling, including Pittsburgh native Chris Jameson, Chris Higbee, Keita the Great, and many others that are setting sail in March. Visit Pittsburgh or legendsofpittsburghcruise.com/entertainers to see everyone that's lined up for this cruise. And if you're ready to book, you could do so right there on their website, or you could call the number 877-381-5553 and use the promo code SCU19 when booking. My name is Joe Kuzma, and it is that time to preview yet another Steelers game, upcoming game against maybe the best team in the NFL right now, to be completely honest, the New Orleans Saints. And when we do these preview things, we have a little thing here we call Trey's Corner. It's time for this edition of the Steel City Underground podcast, where we give Trey, Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback Trey Johnson, his corner. I don't like really putting you in the corner, though, Trey. It sounds like you were in trouble, but how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm definitely not in trouble. I'm living a good life.
Yeah, it's your little corner of the week here, bookending our shows and taking a look ahead. But I want to take a look behind and ask you if you were surprised about last Sunday's win over the New England Patriots.
Was I surprised? No, not really. I mean, kind of even how I said last week, I kind of expected us to win. I was definitely excited to watch such a great game, especially, the way it came down to the wire and everything like that. So, I don't know. I was just kind of happy to see the game and, of course, for us to be able to pull it out and kind of see our defense and our secondary, specifically Joe, who ended up getting Defensive Player of the Week this week, I'm pretty sure. And,
yeah.
It was just kind of good seeing everything come together.
Yeah, I mean, some people are saying Pro Bowl snubs. You can only send so many people to the Pro Bowl. You can't send the entire Steelers roster as much as we would like to. That almost did it last year. It was like 8 guys that ended up making it, and I'm sure some players are going to drop, guys playing in the Super Bowl, guys due to injury, guys that just don't want to play in it or whatever be their reasoning. So there may be a few more that'll get lined up there, which will be which will be interesting. I mean, it's a good honor. It's saying you're the best of the best. It's the NFL's All-Star game. I know it's a little tongue-in-cheek for the actual game itself, and they always try and dress it up and make it exciting or whatnot. So a lot of people are like, who cares? Or the fact that they moved it up ahead of the Super Bowl, a lot of people are like, well, you know what? Big Ben wasn't in it, and we don't expect him to be playing in it anyways. So we expect the Steelers to be in the Super Bowl, and having those kind of expectations all the time is why a lot of fans kind of go crazy. A lot of people didn't have the highest of expectations last weekend. I don't know that they have the highest of expectations this week either, just based on, the ebbs and flows of the regular season. You're going to have that type of stuff now with the Steelers. They're in the driver's seat. They're still in first place, the AFC North. They got to keep pace, got to keep ahead of the Ravens. The Ravens don't necessarily have an easy game on Saturday either. They face the LA Chargers. So, the Steelers are they're running into the 12-2 Saints right now. And the Saints have been red hot for a long time, but they didn't look so red hot on Monday, and they're going to catch them, even though they got to travel to the Mercedes Benz Dome, or whatever they call it now. It was the Superdome, or maybe they do still call it the Mercedes Benz Superdome.
I think it still is.
Yeah, they got to travel there. It's not an easy place to play, but they catch them on a short week. You think the short week, how much advantage would that maybe give the Steelers? I mean, it is one less day of rest, whether guys are banged up, injured, and whatnot. One less day for the Saints to prepare. Yeah,
it's definitely something that can benefit us. Kind of how you touched on it with the one less week to recover. People don't realize, football obviously is an extremely contact sport, and, it's not like your body just automatically heals itself. You need a few days to kind of recuperate and kind of get back together, So, you take those days, and then it's probably going to take like 2-3 days. And then by the time the Saints are really completely recuperated, it's almost game week, and your week is so shortened that, you really don't have time to be out on the field and kind of do different practice things like that. So, I definitely think it's something that can play in our favor. You know, going into the Superdome definitely isn't something that's easy to do, and going there and win definitely isn't something it's easy to do. You know, so but I definitely think that we can go out there and do it. You know, we just kind of everybody has to stay on track and just kind of make sure everybody knows their job and does their role. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we're talking about the Saints, and, I mean, immediately the first thing that pops in your head is Drew Brees, all the weapons, Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram at running back, and, you know, Michael Thomas, who I'll actually say the right guy for a change. Some of the people who have been listening to us for a while know that I kept calling Matthew Thomas for the Steelers, who's now in the practice squad, Michael, by accident. And it's just the Ohio State – I'm an Ohio State Buckeyes guy, too. Okay. So, yeah, it was stuck in my brain, and I just couldn't get rid of it for the longest time. There's, you know, those snafus. Well, you got guys out there that are saying, you know, still the San Diego Chargers instead of the LA Chargers, which is, you know, that's forgivable too, just as long as you aren't, you know, making your keys to the game the guys to watch three guys that don't play for the team or haven't played for them like practically all year. Like I'll protect the guilty for those who saw it. It was a very what do you want to say, like a celebrity sports analyst on one of the big networks that totally botched that like about a week ago. And
yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, you saw it too. Somebody else trolled that. They did their Philadelphia Eagles keys of the game, and they said like Donovan McNabb, Lito Shepherd. They started naming like a bunch of guys who hadn't played for the Eagles in years, which was awesome.
Super throwback right there.
Yeah, I loved seeing Lito Shepherd. That stuck in my brain too. I was like, man, I forgot. You know, you forget about some of this stuff. So, but recently though, ever since, you know, these guys, what did I say they were now? I just lost my page here. Here we go, 12-2. I saw the two losses. I was trying to figure out how many of these they ripped off in a row, like 9 in a row or so. You know, they had some close games to start because they had to beat the Falcons in OT. They beat the Browns by only a field goal. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, let's score 30 to 40 points per game. They put up 45 on the Rams, who I didn't think had the strongest defense, the 51 on the Bengals, 48 on the Eagles. They came back around when they played the divisional game against the Falcons again and put up 31. And then they had to play they played like back-to-back Thursday night games, which was interesting. So they went from the Thanksgiving slate to another Thursday game against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys played them real tough and held them only to 10 points. They had a 13-10 loss to the Cowboys on the road. Then they went on the road again down in Tampa, won a 28-14 divisional game, and then went on the road yet again last Monday and had a very, very tight game where they couldn't score touchdowns against a Carolina Panthers team that, quite frankly, found every way possible to lose that game. Aside from the Cowboys, they're not a divisional opponent, but are the Saints, you think the Saints are slowing down any, or is that somewhat like a familiarity with the opponent? Because I was going to ask you the same thing with the Steelers and Patriots. They played each other a lot over the last few years, and I think some of that's just familiarity of opponent. That's why the divisional games are usually more difficult. Could we see things maybe open up a little bit more this upcoming Sunday with the Steelers and Saints?
Yeah, I definitely do feel like they're kind of slowing down, especially in the NFL, it's a copycat league, so when the Cowboys kind of went out there and kind of showed that, okay, you can stop the Saints offense, they also showed how to stop the Saints offense, so, other teams are just kind of picking up on that. I feel like that's kind of why, on Monday that they kind of struggled against the Panthers, because they came out there and kind of did the same thing that the Cowboys were doing, so I feel like we just kind of got to follow suit, just kind of contain Drew Brees, double Michael Thomas, especially on like third downs or something, on third downs, because that's definitely his go-to target, when he needs a big play. And then, of course, you got to find a way to contain Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, and just kind of, when it comes to Alvin Kamara, you have to really know where he is on the field, because they kind of line him up everywhere. He can be in the slot, he can be in the backfield, they might even put him at quarterback one play. So, you just kind of got to make sure, everywhere where he is, and just kind of stay on top of everybody, because outside of those immediate threats, the other guys, they're good guys, but they're people who can kind of be stopped one-on-one, and you really don't have to worry about them making a big play every play.
Yeah, and you know what? To that extent, it looks like the Saints have been really trying to find that other target for Drew Brees. I mean, it's pretty much been Michael Thomas, who's had an electric year. I mean, this is a guy – I was going to ask you this real quick, too, since we've brought him up with Michael Thomas. Now, Michael Thomas has 109 receptions, 1,267 yards thus far, 8 touchdowns, and he's played in every single game. And plus, they also brought this up on Monday night, 85.8% catch percentage. He doesn't drop the ball. The guy has, I mean, if you saw him in the Pro Bowl last year, he do the skills thing. The guy's hands are huge. They're absolutely huge. But is this one of those scenarios where you just have Joe Hayden follow him around the field just because of the kind of threat that he is?
Yeah, I definitely think that's something that would be something that we could do. You know, because Michael Thomas, he, like you mentioned, you know, his hands, and he's just a large individual. You know, he's really long and he's tall. You know, so the jump balls and kind of things like his catch radius is very large. You know, so it's hard to kind of stop somebody who's like that, because especially with a quarterback like Drew Brees, he's going to put it where, you know, the defender really can't see it or even really knows where the ball is. But, you know, Michael Thomas is so long that he's going to be able to reach out and kind of snag it in. So, you know, I definitely feel like us following him around is something that we could do. And even if we don't follow him around, you know, I definitely feel like you have to give him that special attention, you know, like whether it's putting SD over the top or having, you know, Terrell come over and kind of shadow underneath, you know, whatever it is, just kind of make sure that there's 2 people around him kind of at all times. You know, even if you're passing off zones, you know, make sure you're communicating in those zones and kind of telling him, okay, he's coming through this zone, watch it back, or wherever it is that he's coming from. So it's definitely something that we have to take note of, and something to watch throughout the game.
Yeah, and I was also looking at – I'm kind of looking at the pattern of the way the Steelers' defense, the adjustments that were made to limit Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, and, you know – I'm not going to downplay Drew Brees. He could probably make any of these wide receivers look great, but on paper – outside of Michael Thomas, and then you have, you know, Alvin Kamara, Ben Watson, who's an ageless wonder at 38, still playing in the league, and, you know, he's the next guy. You have 109 receptions, 127 targets that went Thomas's way, 99 that have gone Kamara's way, and then it falls off a cliff from there. It's 41 targets, 32 catches for Ben Watson. You go down to like Tre'Quan Smith, Mark Ingram, who's usually not on the field at the same time as Kamara, Josh Hill, Ted Ginn, who's injured now. I mean, that's why they brought in like Brandon Marshall. They originally brought in Des Bryant. They're looking for that other guy. And I saw some of the things, I'm sure you picked up on this too. Morgan Burnett played an awful lot, and Vince Williams never left the field either. So you kind of had them running the interior versus like an LJ Fort and a John Bostic. A lot of defensive backs on the field. Another one of your guys, Cam Sutton, out there. And, you know, for the first time in weeks, actually, Cam Sutton getting quite a bit of playing time. We're gonna talk about this on the offensive side too, because it's very eerily similar how they tried to just match up and just make sure that all of those weapons the Patriots had wouldn't just roam free. And, you know, there was a great misdirection play that opened up the first possession for the Patriots, and they scored. And then from there, it was pretty much lights out, and there was some good splash plays in there too. Do you think maybe there's a very similar type of game plan in mind when they have to match up with the Saints offense?
Yeah, I do. I think that it's more similar. Like, it creates a similarity by the Saints backfield. You know, the fact that they have Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, and, you know, the fact that they can line them up in the slot and kind of put them wherever they want. It puts us in a position to where, you know, you really don't want, like, you know, a tackling linebacker per se trying to cover Alvin Kamara out in space, you know. So you kind of put somebody like Morgan Burnett or, you know, like you said, Vince Williams, just kind of in there to just be able to, somebody that can still tackle, but that can also cover, you know. So you need to be able to find those hybrids that really can do both. So I feel like that's definitely something that we kind of have to do against the Saints, because, you know, they have so many threats, and those threats are so prominent. You know, you can't really, you know, kind of like I always say, our job really isn't to go out there and stop them. You know, you just got to contain them and not let them just go out there and snap and just have one hell of a game. So, you know, it's our job is just to slow them down. And I feel like that's something that we could definitely do.
Yep, and I mean, there's a lot of parallels here. You got a great quarterback in Drew Brees, a great coach in Sean Payton, great guys in the backfield. Looks like the Steelers may even get James Conner back for this game. Looking at, we always bring up the line here, Steelers underdog 5.5 points, and it's almost like they perform better when their back's against the wall. Obviously, a victory is much needed, so you don't have to make the following week against the Bengals, a must-win situation or a do-or-die type of situation when it comes to the division and your postseason status. 53.5 over-under on this one, which, we got nowhere near that last Sunday with the Patriots, which I think was a kind of a surprise to some people. I think you were calling it as a very tight game. I was nodding my head because I listened to it. That was the one that you ended up talking with Brian instead of myself. I remember I sent you something on that, too. I was like, yeah. I'm like, I'm not in my head like I'm doing it right now. I'm not in my head. I could see them getting close, but I don't know about an over on this. And hopefully nobody takes our word and bets and then says, you lost me money. But 5.5 points, man. It's just, what do the Vegas guys know here? I have someone who comments a lot on the website. I'm not sure if they listen to the podcast, so I won't name them by name. And they were saying the Steelers are very erratic against the spread. And I'm like, I just don't think the Vegas odd makers know what to make of this team, and nor should we. I have a good feeling about this game. I'm not going to say a great feeling. I have a feeling it could be very much back and forth. We know that games always come down to putting pressure on the quarterback, whoever gets the turnover, margin in their favor. Those things are still going to be a factor. But setting all that aside, I really do think that the Steelers, provided the whole mistakes thing, penalties, we saw what penalties did to the Patriots on Sunday, very uncharacteristic for them. If the Saints come out and kind of play flat like the Panthers game, and the Steelers come out and let's just say there aren't the mistakes with the interceptions or anything like that, pretty much Ben playing flawless on the road, this could very much be in the Steelers' favor.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I feel real confident about this game because we kind of mentioned how the Saints are slowing down. I definitely feel like they're doing that, so our job is just kind of go out there and keep them from coming out there and just exploding, So I feel like we've kind of been starting off games pretty strong, especially coming off a great win last week against the Patriots. Our confidence is high, we're feeling really good about ourselves. So I feel like we kind of have the mentality that we can go down there into the Superdome and kind of come out there with a win.
Yep, momentum's definitely in the Steelers' favor, and flipping over
momentum is one crazy thing, man. Let me tell you.
Let me tell you, I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but Charlie Batch was talking about this on a post-game show, and they were talking about how the Steelers are in a very similar situation to the way they were in 2005 with 3 big games to go, and they ended up making the wild card that year. A 6th seed at that time, as 6th seed had never run the table and made it to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl, no less. And that was the whole, Jerome Bettis swan song, and the game played in his hometown of Detroit. And we're starting to see some parallels here where, maybe this thing has turned itself around and maybe quick, and the Steelers talented enough, as we all know and many fans complain about. There's so many weapons on the offense. They may be getting one back with James Conner. I know that we're going to have to watch the injury reports, the practice reports, and see how they handle that. We know what Jalen Samuels is capable of. That was not that big of a surprise to me based on what I saw in camp and knowing his background. I mean, the guy scores touchdowns. That's what he does.
Yeah, he's a touchdown machine.
Yeah, and, they put him out, and they've done this with Conner. Conner's caught a lot more passes than people were wanting to think that he was capable of doing coming out of college. That wasn't really his thing. And in year 2, he really looked sharp with that. But, I mean, they could do the same thing with Jalen Samuels. But on the offensive side of the ball, this is where I said it's like the parallel. You had the defensive backs and trying to line up and cover receivers and tight ends and running backs. We saw a lot of empty sets from the Steelers. We saw, even though, Randy Fichtner, he says these short pass plays, he counts them as runs still. So he's not too worried about having a lopsided run to pass ratio. And now you have Eli Rogers back, and you're seeing how they're mixing that up with Ryan Switzer, with the tight ends, with Antonio Brown, with JuJu Smith-Schuster. I'm thinking the way you might want to attack this Saints defense is maybe more of the empty set type of thing, 4 or 5 wide receivers or splitting someone out wide. I take a look at, the Saints defense. You say that they're not chumps, right? Or scrubs. Scrubs is the word that you like to say. They're good against the run. They are only giving up 79 rushing yards a game, but I think a large part of that is because they're 28th against the pass.
Mm-hmm. I definitely feel like the way that we can beat them is by spreading the field out, and getting those quick dink and dunk passes, and those pass plays that count as runs, I guess you could say. But, I definitely think that's a great idea, and just kind of attack them head on, because when you spread the field out like that, it creates one-on-one matchups. And, missed tackles and one-on-one matchups always turn into big plays. And with our offense, we have a lot of people that can make people miss, whether it's trying to shake them off or whether it's just trying to run them straight over, we're able to create broken tackles. So that's definitely something that is our strong suit and something that we should kind of focus on in this game.
Yep, and, the Superdome, you can't downplay playing there. It's going to be a loud place. It's, it's one of these part of the doubleheaders. So once again, the Steelers playing a 4:25 on CBS, just like last week. It's a highlighted game across the country, and a lot of people are going to think it's a Super Bowl preview. Once again, they get a referee that, me and Brian, I won't let you comment on it. Don't want to get you in trouble with the officials. Before you even get back out on the field, you're going to have guys that are going to be throwing flags at you. But
they're going to hate me before they even know me.
I've liked Craig Rolstad. He's assigned this game. This could actually be a game that could determine if Craig Rolstad ends up doing one of the conference championships or a Super Bowl game. He or any other members of his crew, and the way that they assess or examine the officiating crews. So I imagine they're going to be on, I'm going to say, their best behavior. They're going to try and bring their A game as well, that they know what's going on. I was kind of pleased with this assignment here, but again, it's kind of hard to trust what's going on with the officiating based on some of even the things we saw last Sunday. I mean, there's going to be calls that go your way one way or another. You just kind of got to let it go and play the game. But I'm kind of cool with this. The one thing, though, we don't mention a whole lot on the show, or we just mention kind of in spurts here or there, is there's a whole other phase of football here that could be a very big factor in this game, because the Saints special teams, they have very good special teams. They have good punter. They have Will Lutz, who's a very good kicker. He doesn't miss, and he's playing in a dome. He's playing at home. You also have Alvin Kamara, who's, returning kicks and punts, and you got to see him as a threat as well when he's capable of bringing the ball out to midfield anytime he touches the ball on special teams. On the flip side, got to make sure that the Steelers have it down pat. Hopefully Chris Boswell is going to be okay there, getting rid of the distractions on Twitter, turning his season around, a nice 48-yarder. Special teams impact for this game, in your opinion, Trey?
Special teams always has a very big impact. We even kind of saw that last week with the Patriots and the way that they covered that one punt, which was kind of crazy. But special teams is always important, so it's definitely something that we have to focus on, especially with Alvin Kamara being back there on kick return, punt return, and different things like that. He's always a threat anytime the ball is in his hands, and even their the Saints punt coverage is really good. I don't know what they're ranked in the league, but I know they're up near the top, and they got good gunners, and obviously a great punter who has a great net average. So it's definitely something to watch and something to look into. But I don't think it's anything that we can't handle. It's something that we just kind of make sure everybody knows what their job is, and just kind of make sure everybody's communicating and everybody's on the same page. And you can easily contain Alvin Kamara when he's back there, and when it comes to catching punts, just secure it, fair catch it if you need to fair catch it. You know what I'm saying? Just catch it and make sure that you don't put the ball on the ground and give the offense a chance to make some plays.
Absolutely. By the way, Thomas Morstead, the punter, 47 yards, average 43 net, which is that's killer.
Great.
Yeah, and Will Lutz, or Lutz. I always say his name incorrectly. I mean, you want to talk about something here. 127 points this season to Chris Boswell's 74. He's 46 of 47 for points after attempts, where Boswell's 41 of 46. And the Saints kicker here, 27 of 28 on field goals. I mean, the guy is just automatic. They got their hands full. Alvin Kamara, second in the NFL in touchdowns, sixth in scrimmage yards, and he dropped in scrimmage yards a little bit just because, they got thunder and lightning with he and Mark Ingram. We talk about, James Conner's progress and if he plays on Sunday. You think he shares the backfield with Jalen Samuels at all, or do the Steelers just go, full bore with Conner as their lead back?
I think if he comes back, he's definitely going to still be the lead back, but I think he'll still be sharing the field. After the game that J-Sam had, you can't really just put a threat like that on the bench. Whether the person in front of him is better than him or not, you still have to try and find a way to get him on the field. Especially if he's creating yards and creating touchdowns. So I definitely feel like if James comes back, it's obviously a big bonus to our offense. It gives us a whole nother asset to our offense, but. J-Sam is a great football player. He's somebody that you can even line up in the slot. He's obviously not on Alvin Kamara's level yet, but, he's definitely an Alvin Kamara type of person, where in the sense that you can line him up, in the slot, or you can line him up on the outside and kind of create that one-on-one matchup with the linebacker, all the way out there in the field, and he just kind of dusts him off and ends up making a big play. So that's definitely something that I feel like J-Sam is going to be a threat this game, and we're gonna find a way to use him, whether James Conner's back or not.
Yep, and I mean, we could always talk about trying to get after Drew Brees and harass him. I mean, the Panthers had him in an uncharacteristic 69.1 QB rating, no touchdowns, as I said, one pick, and it just wild. If actually the Panthers were able to move the ball at all on offense, that could have been it was their game to lose pretty much. And that momentum is a fickle mistress. We're going to see what goes on here with the Steelers. We talked about some of the Pro Bowl guys and some of the guys who didn't get there. I think maybe that could be even some further momentum for like a Joe Hayden, a TJ Watt, a JuJu Smith-Schuster. I'm not sure that Ben cares anymore. He's been around a very, very long time, and he's played in the last four and many more prior to that. But this is yet another big matchup. I
think Ben's on a search for another ring.
Yeah, and that's the right focus to have. I'm sure Drew Brees is looking toward that too, because, he only has the one, and this is another one of these classic quarterback matchups where, some of these guys, as much as we hate to say it, they are getting up in age, so you got to enjoy watching these guys while they're still playing, you know what I mean? I mean, I wish I could still watch, Montana and Marino and Elway and some of these guys, but, time does move on, and so
time waits for nobody.
Time waits for nobody, and we are here. It's the rocket ship, man. You can't look in the rear view. So enjoy it, folks. Hopefully we enjoy it for all of the right reasons heading into, the extended holiday weekend. So just first and foremost, Trey, season's greetings, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you. And
same to you and your family, man. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, everything.
Yeah, everything. Even Festivus is actually, the Seinfeld thing with the poll and the airing of grievances. A lot of people like to say that's on December 23rd, which is actually Sunday. So,
oh man!
But hopefully we have no grievances to air. Later on in the evening after this game concludes. And of course, all of the same holiday greetings to all of our listeners. And we will, hopefully myself and Brian, or some combination with the Professor Zach Meckler, will be back with you perhaps Festivus evening that Sunday or early Christmas Eve morning. We may have some pauses in the programming through the middle of the week as we're all enjoying and celebrating the holiday with our friends and family, our loved ones and significant others. We hope you do the same as well. And as always, I encourage everyone the same thing at the end, but I wanted to thank you, Trey, and hopefully we can get you on the horn one more time to preview Week 17 and hopefully beyond that. But if the schedules don't line up, hopefully we will have more to discuss in the near future.
Yeah, we will, man. I definitely look forward to it. Had another great show today, and happy Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope everybody enjoys times with their family. Nothing but good blessings and love going around.
Absolutely. I wish I could talk to you about what we're going to have to eat. I really have no clue. I hadn't asked. I hadn't inquired. The hustle and bustle has had me running around like crazy. So with all of that in mind, Brian usually says it's crazy out there. It is crazy out there as we count down the days to Christmas. So folks, I always encourage you. My name, Joe Kuzma. His name, Trey Johnson, cornerback with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Enjoying a snowless Christmas, Trey, before I sign off.
It's nice and sandy down here, man. No snow.
Yeah, that's the wrong kind of stuff you want beneath your toes when Santa ho-ho-hos. Until next time, folks, be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.